With our friend from MLB TV, Mr. Keith Costas. Keith, are you there?
I am. Morning, McGraw.
Good morning. Good thing the Cardinals won yesterday, came back and avoided that sweep because the nervous Nelly Cardinal fans were getting very worried about the Cubs. Do you have that same worry about the Cubs?
Yeah, I think for the first time all year, maybe the worry around Cardinal land was maybe starting to get a little bit justified. That definitely felt like a playoff atmosphere yesterday, and was a huge win. I don't know if I'm quite as concerned about the Cubs as just that lead shrinking against the Pirates. I mean, they're still a team closer than the Cubs, but yeah, the Cubs have been playing real well, and the Cardinals with their offensive issues, that was a huge win yesterday.
You are getting the sense, and you sort of touched on it, you are getting the sense that everyone's waited for that other shoe to drop with all the injuries, and so now you got Grichuk playing center field who can't throw the ball. I mean, that sort of shows you how desperate the Cardinals really are, in a sense.
Absolutely, that's all everybody was talking about in the office yesterday. You know, that was a day game, so a lot of people had it on while we were still at work, and people were shocked that they were in that kind of position, considering that they've been basically the best team in the league from start to finish. But I guess that's life in the NL Central. I mean, they're all of a sudden find themselves in the closest division race in the NL, even though, like I said, they've been the best team start to finish. It's just a crowded field with two really quality teams trying to chase them down.
So now you have Matheny has to decide whether or not you put Grichuk on the playoff roster. You have Holiday's coming back. Do you put him on the roster? Do you keep him off? I mean, Matheny and Mozeliak are going to have some really tough decisions to make.
Absolutely, and you saw Matt Adams standing there on the top step of the dugout. He's back in the mix now, so that's kind of the thing we've been talking about, and we mentioned it last week as well. You know, how do you find that balance between this team's been playing really well, can't mess with the flow, we need to win these games, and getting these guys back into the mix and seeing what they have for October.
If you're a Cardinal fan, would you rather see the Pirates or the Cubs win that one-game playoff series?
Good question. I would have said the Cubs about 2 weeks ago, but with the way Garrett Cole has been pitching, the Pirates' great young ace, he doesn't look quite as dominant as he's been in the first season, and that changed the dynamic. I guess at this point I would rather see the Pirates. I think both teams have really good managers in Clint Hurdle and Joe Madden, but there's just something about Madden, that extra little bit of magic or whatever you can't quantify, that maybe makes me a little bit weary of matching up with them in that first round.
And what are your thoughts on the New York Mets, who have won a series I don't think they've ever won in their almost 50 years of existence, coming back 3 times late in each game to beat the Nationals?
Absolutely unbelievable what's happening in New York right now. You know, we were just talking about Yoenis Cespedes kind of kicking some numbers around, and what we came up with is that it's probably reasonable to think that in the last 6 weeks this guy's made himself about $50 million or so with what he's been doing. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's done since he's come over to the Mets, and the way the team's responded around him as well. So it looks like the Nationals are all but finished here, and the Mets just continue to roll.
Yeah, and so it's going to be, if the season were to end today, and it looks like there's not going to be too much jockeying. The Mets play the Dodgers, and then the Cardinals will play the winner of that Pittsburgh Cubs series. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers? The Mets, it looks like, I hate to say this, but the Mets look like the hottest team in the league.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think we mentioned maybe about 2-3 weeks ago now that the Mets are actually the favorite in Vegas to win the NL pennant, which, you know, given their pitching staff and like we just talked about, the offense coming around, I think it's hard to bet against that. But that being said, Clayton Kershaw, you know, relative to his historic standard that he's set over the last 4 years, he kind of got off to a slower start this year, but over the last 5-6 weeks, he looks to be completely lights out. Zach Greinke's got as good a chance of anybody to win the NL Cy Young. So when you've got those two at the top of the rotation, yes, it maybe isn't the perfect storm the Dodgers envisioned when they put high 9 figures into this team on the payroll for 2015. But you still have to like your chances with 2 of the best 5 pitchers in the world going to the top of your staff.
Keith Costas with us from MLTV for another couple minutes. I heard a rumor about you.
Oh no!
Is it true that you're named after Kirby Puckett?
That is true. Keith Michael Kirby Costas is the official name on the birth certificate there. After a couple days, it's just Keith Michael Costas, a bit of a parental dispute on whether or not Kirby would actually go through. But the story goes, Kirby was a young player, and my dad was doing the game of the week at that time. The Twins were in the mix in the mid-'80s, and they were having a conversation one day, and my dad mentioned that my mom was pregnant, and Kirby said, "Hey, do you have a name?" And my dad said, "No, not yet." And he said, "How about Kirby? Works for a boy, works for a girl." And this was maybe mid-spring training, and I was due early May. So my dad said, all right, if you're hitting 350, and Kirby never even hit 300 in a season at this point, if you're hitting 350 when the kid's born, we'll name him Kirby. Fast forward 6 weeks, May 1 rolls around, the due date. I don't check in until about May 9th, at which point Kirby is hitting a cool 394.
Wow.
So out comes Keith Michael Costas. Fast forward a week to the next game. Kirby says, hey, I heard you had the son. What's the name? What's the deal? Here's Keith Michael Costas, and he wasn't standing for that, so I had to go back and change the birth certificate to Keith Michael Kirby Costas.
That is a great story. What is coming up on MLB TV today?
And we're talking a lot of Mets. We've got a little bit of Cardinals stuff going on as well. And a lot of Cubs talk, too. Basically the questions you just asked. Are the Cubs still in the mix? Can the Pirates and Cubs make a run at that thing? And then we're also going to look at some upcoming free agents, Cespedes, Johnny Cueto, and Zach Greinke.
That is Kirby Costas, ladies and gentlemen, from MLB TV. Keith, have a good week. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, McGraw.
7:12 here, Big 550 KTRS.